Yeah, I
which
normally
have
get I get those questions a lot. Is what's a great finish to use? Sharp tools and sandpaper,
Mm-hmm.
and that should end it. The chemicals you put on will enhance the finish you've created. Um, if you turn something and you have some tears in it, I don't believe there's a finish in the world that can cover that up and fix it. I don't believe so. But if you get rid of them, and I am an advocate of using a scraper for final passes. It's not aggressive. It's fairly safe to use on almost all woods, and it gives you if you. I like this, and I get hell from this sometimes. Most folks will go on a scraper flat, straight on a tool rest, and make passes. I don't like that because I don't have any control over where that bit or that edge will go. So I kick it up on the shoulder a little bit, and then I pass it along. Number one, I reduce that cutting edge to just that one edge out front. And I'm not cutting with all the face of the scraper. Although larger scrapers, I have a larger radius. But if I just kick it up on the shoulder and pass it along, I'm getting a smooth pass. And I like it's a final cut. I like to do those light little sweeping passes. It doesn't leave tool gouges. It doesn't leave the tear out. It doesn't leave burnishing from the tool. I mean, you make a great pass with a 3/8 bowl gouge down the side, but you're riding the bevel. That's burnishing all the way down. When you get done with that, you have to open those pores to get that surface equal before you do anything else to it. So if you press down real hard and make a really slick cut, just do that. Wet it a little bit. Yeah, I talk about spitting on your work. Wet it a little bit. Wait a minute and feel it. And if it feels like fuzz, you compress the wood. And that's why sometimes folks will say, why would I want to start with 80 grit or 100 grit? The term I would use is I want to homogenize the surface of the piece. I want to make everything I turned equal. The sides, the bottom, the flute, the tip, the nut, everything be equal. All right. So we've leveled the field, and I keep stepping up in the grits to where I want to fine tune it. So instead of having the fairway done, I'm going to keep working on it until I have the putting green done. And that's how I would work my finishes. And how far will I go? How far do you really think you can go? Ask yourself
you
that.
Want to.
Yeah. Yeah. If you really nutso about it, and I don't want to offend anybody, and you think you need to go to 600, 800, or 1,000 grit on wood, consider what the material is. Consider how hard the wood is. Consider the oils and the speed and the cut. Take all that in consideration. You might find out that you can't go there with that piece of wood. It's like taking yellow pine. I make ink pens out of yellow pine. I can sand this with 180 and get an acceptable ink pen out of it. And then I just lap it out. Just take sandpaper and lap it out. Take any marks off of it. I like it. Number one, it's a 1 cent pen. But if I sand it more and more and more, it's a softwood. It's yellow pine, so SYP, Southern Yellow Pine. It won't hold up to any fine sanding. It's going to move. So I get that. I sanded this up to such and such grit. You might have polished it.
Yeah, I do shaping with 100 grit. So I might change the shape slightly with the 100 grit when I'm sanding 80, 100 grit. I mean, I don't think I have 80 in the shop, frankly, but I do some shaping, like maybe I want to a little more rounded edge on a goblet or something like that.
And if you have any highs and lows in the outside of your piece, you can massage them out a little bit by sanding them out if you can't scrape it or cut it. And remember, an old thing I had a guy teach me a long time ago, and he was right on the money, and I still use it today. When you're looking to see if something is round, take a pencil and do the pencil test. That's it. So all you have to do is a pencil test. If it stops, even minusculely stops, that's a flat spot. And when a light hits this spot and this spot, it's not going to hit this spot. So that's live, dead. So if you just take that pencil, and I mean, it's hold it in your fingers like this and just roll it. And you're going to feel it in your fingers. And when you hit that bump, you're going to know it. And that's the spot you're going to have to go look at. Now, one way is if you use that sandpaper, I don't want to get way off track, but if you use that sandpaper, if you use it on something soft like this, paper will conform somewhat to the contours. But if you use it on a harder, I super glued it on there, darn it. A harder pad with less give, you can cross it and get rid of some of those bumps. And you got to watch. These can be terrible for sanding. These things right here, these tools God gave you, they can be terrible sometimes because the pressure will vary from where the paper goes across, and your fingers will adjust. Even if you put the pad paper on a board or one of those pads they sell that looks like a figure eight or whatever, you would have a more control over the flatness.